Salam everybody, this is lesson 2 of your game programming course using Construct. Last lecture I left you with two problems. One of them was how your player dies, we had an issue with that, and moving on to the next level. So let's address the first one, the way that your player dies. If I restart this, your player can die in multiple ways. For instance, if he falls below this last platform, then he restarts the level. Also, if I jump too high, I also restart the level. And that occurs because if we look at our event sheet, this event occurs whenever the player is not on the screen. What happens is the game engine restarts the layout, where our layout is equivalent to the level. So the way we have it set up is whenever the player is no longer on the screen, so if he's above, below, or to the side, the system will automatically restart the level. We don't want that to happen. We only want the game to restart the level when the player falls below the lowest platform. So we want to change how it's set up in the event engine. First, let's go to the event sheet and delete how our player dies. So just select it and press delete, and then let's rethink the case where our player should die. So we want him to die only when he gets below this point. So how do we do that? Currently our layout, if you click on the layout and you go here, you can see the height is 480 pixels, I believe. So from this point all the way to the bottom is 480. And you can verify that by looking at your mouse pointer over here. And I'll show you that we are indeed at 480. So if our player falls below 480 pixels, we want the system or the game engine to indicate that the player has died. So let's do that. Let's go to the event sheet. Let's add an event. Select the player. What we want to select now is the compare Y value. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Click next, and for comparison we want greater than, and for the Y coordinate we want to type in layout height So if you type in L, you should see a list of all the available functions we can use. So we want to select layout, height, and click done. So what this says is when the player's Y coordinates is greater than the layout height, we want the system to restart the layout. So why am I using the Y value? So what this means is whenever the player's Y coordinate value, where the Y is the height and X is the width, is greater than 480 pixels, which is the height from this point to here. Basically, if I'm right here, I'm above 480. Then the system should restart the level. So let's try that out. So yeah, so the player Y coordinates is greater than the layout of the layout height, then we want the system to restart. So first we need to reposition our player and click run layout. As you can see here, we can still move with our arrow keys. If I jump previously, it would restart the layout because it was off screen. But if I jump now, it comes back. We're still on the same, we have no issue. If I jump high, I have no issue. When I fall below the layout height, then I restart, as you can tell. So let me jump here, then I restart. As you noticed, the character, you can still see the character or player. He doesn't fall completely below the last platform. And then he restarts. You see that? So let's fix that issue. So what's happening is, here's the this point, the lowest section of the player is the y coordinate. Whenever he comes just 1 or 2 pixels greater than this layout height, he's actually, say, 483, as we see here, 483, 486 versus 480. So that tells the system to automatically restart the level. So instead, we want the whole player to come past this point, and then we want the system to restart. So to do that, let me replace him, put him back up here. Let's update this condition. If you want the y coordinate to be greater than the layout height plus the player dot y coordinate. Sorry, not the y coordinate. We want it to be player dot height. Therefore, whenever the player's y coordinate is greater than the height of the layout plus the player's height itself, we want the system to restart, as we were saying before. So when I get to this point, I am greater than the height of the layout. When I get to this point, the layout, I am greater than the height of the layout here, plus the height of the character. So let's see how that works. I'll start the character here, press play. And now we can tell that the player has completely fallen, and then the system restarts the game engine, which is a better effect, in my opinion. The next issue we want to address is how the player moves from one level to the next. We already have something in place, so if we look at the event sheet, currently, whenever our player collides with the end area, the system will go to level 2. So if you're at level 1 and you collide with this end area, you automatically start at level 2, or the system loads up level 2. The issue comes when, at level 2, when the player collides, what do you think will happen? The way we have it set up is that the system will always go to level 2. And that's not what we want to happen. What we want is for the engine, the game engine, to start up level 3. So to do that, we're going to introduce a couple of new concepts. So one concept we're going to introduce is a global variable. A variable is an element that can be changed or adapted throughout your whole system. So in the event sheet, right-click, select Add Global Variable. And we're going to call it current level. And we're going to leave the type as number, but it can be text or number. For this case, we're going to have it initial value will be 1. Because we have level 1 is our starting level, and click OK. Because this is a global variable, it can be accessed anywhere within our event sheet, in the event section or the action section. For instance, if I wanted to update this to add in the global variable, all I would type in is current level variable, and you see it. It pops up. That means it's accessible. But it wouldn't make sense to put it here. I just want to show you guys that in any function or any event or action you want to access your global variable, it is there. Now what we want to happen is when the player reaches the end area, we want that global variable, current level, to increment. So currently it's at 1. When this player overlaps the end area, we want the level, current level, to go to 2. And when we're at level 2, when the player overlaps the end area, we want the current level to increment to level 3. And for as many levels as we have. So let me reset these two players. To do that, let's add an action. This action will tell the system to increment or add to, we'll use the add to function, our global variable, current level, and we want to add 1 to it. So we'll click done. So the way it's set up right now, whenever the player collides with the end area, the system's going to go to level 2, and the system is also going to add 1 to the current level. That doesn't make sense in the current setup right now. So what's going to happen first is going to go to level 2, and then it's going to add it to the current level. We want this to be swapped, so we'll select it and bring it down. So now we'll add 1 to the current level, and we want to go to the next level. So we need to update this field. To update it, let's delete the 2 and add in current level. So make sure that this segment, level, and there's a space in between and a quotation, and then the ampersand sign, and then our global variable. We need to make sure that it is exactly the same as our layout. So if our level had level underscore 1, this would be level underscore, and then our 1 would come from the current level, whichever value it is. But since we have a space, we need to make sure there's a space there. Let's test it out to make sure that it works properly. So go to level 1, and you can move your player closer to the checkered end area so you don't have to go through the whole level. Press run layout. Resize it. Oops. So currently we're at level 1. As I move the character, he overlaps the end area. We start at level 2. Now we're here. So I want to go all the way to the end. Let's see if we go to level 3. Now we're at level 3. So the event that we set up works. Just to go over it one more time, as the player collides with the end area, the system will increment this global variable by 1. And then the system will go to that level defined by the level in quotation, representing our level here, our layout, with a space. It has to be the exact same. The ampersand combines the two, and this is a number. So level, space, whatever current level is. When we're at level 1, it's 1. When we move on, it's level 2. It's going to be increments to level 3, and then we move on to the next. So that's how this event in action works. Now that we have those two issues resolved, I'll introduce to you the concept of a HUD. A HUD is a heads-up display, and it usually in platformer games like Mario and some other games, you have a text box or a health meter in the top left-hand corner. So usually you'll have a text here that represents your health, and that is the heads-up display. To create that, let's go to the Layers tab, and I already have one, so let me delete it. We'll click this plus button, and layer 0, just to make sure, layer 0 is our main, so let's rename it. And layer 1 we'll rename to HUD. Now we'll add a text, and this text is going to represent our level, so the player knows what level he is on. So I double-clicked here, select text, and place it anywhere. We'll place it in the middle here. We'll rename it to level display. And by accident I created 2, so I'll delete this one. And here, level. Now we want that text box to be on the layer called HUD. So we have 2, the main and the HUD. And you'll see why. Click on the Layers tab, click on HUD, and we're going to change this to 0, 0. But before that, let me show you why. Here's our level text box that we created, and here's our player. As we play and scroll, the camera scrolls with us, but the text remains static. We want that text to follow the player. To do that, we will set the parallax to 0, 0, and rerun the game. And now you should see that the level does follow the character or the player. The next thing we want to do is change the event sheet so that each level, the text box will display the current and appropriate level. So in this, when the player is playing level 1, this should say level 1. When he's playing level 2, it should say level 2. We want that to occur at the start of each level. So let's add an event, system, on start of layout, we will add an action. And that action will be to change the level display. So click level display, set text, and as before, in our quotation we'll have level, space, and we'll use our global variable here, current level. Done. Usually, the game engine follows in a sequence. It'll first do this, check for this event, and then check for this one. Since this event occurs at the start of the layout, we want this to be first. So we'll select it and scroll it up to the top. Now we'll check and see if it's done correctly. Actually, let's click level 1 and then click run. So now we see level 1. We can make it all the way to the end. We don't see the text box. So what that means is the text object is not there. So we'll click here, level display, drag it onto level 2. Place it in the middle, and we'll do the same for level 3. Now if we rerun the game starting from level 1, we see level 1. We see level 2. And we see level 3. So it works as we expected. A nice thing we can do is have it only display for a couple of seconds, because we really don't want to see that for the entire game. So going back to the event sheet, we'll add an action, tell the system to wait 2 seconds, or however long you would like. I'll pick 2. And then add another action telling the text box to set visibility to invisible. So what should happen at the start of each layout, the text box will write the level and the current level is at in the text, wait 2 seconds, and then make it invisible. Let's try it. Go to level 1, click run, 1, 2, and there you go, it's gone. Just to make sure, we'll go on to the next level. One, 2, and it's gone. So that works. The good thing about this heads-up display is this is where you usually put your health will be in the corner, or how much gold you have. Your assignment for next week. Your assignment for next week is to create pickup items like gold. So if I click here and create a sprite, I'm going to do this real quick just to show you what I kind of expect for your homework assignment. Resize it, 32. You know everything now to be able to create gold coins and pick them up with a collision, and then create a heads-up display over here calculating how many coins you have using variables and everything we've learned so far. Just to be careful, currently these objects are on the heads-up display layer, and when they need to be on the main layer. So if they're on the heads-up display layer, this is what's going to happen. Click run. We have our gold coins. They move with you, right? And they're not supposed to do that. So these coins should be on the main layer. And your homework assignment is to create and place gold coins everywhere on each level, and create a text box on the heads-up display layer displaying how much coin you have gathered or picked up. So whenever your character collides with this coin, you want to change a global variable that represents how many coins you have and update the corresponding text field that you created.